Hi, welcome to the board. This week we've got Paul Llewellyn,
Hello.
Gavin Cochran.
Cochran, well done.
You're really struggling with it now that you keep reminding me about it. And Kirstin Donaldson. This week we're going to be talking about Agile 2013 that both Nathan and Gav attended last week and the week before last.
Yeah.
But before we do that, actually Tony has asked us a question here by the text. He said, how do you think the relaxing of time box lengths for sprints less than 1 month will affect teams? So I'm guessing he's saying that he's sort of moving away from the recommended timings because they're doing sprints less than a month. I mean, we normally do sprints of 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So our timings are according to that.
And
Is it 20% of?
Well, I suppose it's specified, isn't it? That, and I hope this is what Tony is asking. That this, retrospectives are an hour and a half, and sprint planning is 2 hours for.
I think so, yeah.
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The reality is, though, Tony, we never run to we often get things done much quicker these days.
Yeah.
Depends on the team and whether they're a new team or not. But you often get through those time boxes much quicker. So you never go up to your time box.
I think blocking the time out in the calendar for sprint planning, for example, for 2 hours is a good idea. I think relaxing the time box so everybody can just go out when they're done is a great idea. But on the other hand, I don't think it's a good idea to relax the time box so you can extend beyond that. Because the reason that we have these meetings in place and these timings in place is to keep them concise and to make sure that you don't overrun and have lots of unnecessary meetings. So if you start letting people ramble on and go on beyond the time box, that's just going to become a frequent thing, and people are going to expect that when they go into the meeting.
Yeah,
I think
the time boxes are really for making sure it doesn't go over rather than ensuring it doesn't go under.
Yeah.
Yes,
and preventing unnecessary discussion, and I think that's the big thing. I think discussion is really useful in the right place. And like the retrospectives, for example, if there's a really healthy discussion going on, I will just let them know that the guys are, the timing is getting close, and they should maybe wrap the discussion up.
Actually,
it's also, you have to recognise when the discussion isn't useful. And for example, at the stand-up, they could move that discussion outside of the stand-up, or catch up with people.
Yeah, it's great
after.
to give them a reminder of, actually this is probably not great for this particular time.
Yeah, if it doesn't involve the whole team, there's no need to.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing for the Scrum meetings is making sure that they're productive and you get some outcomes out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's one of the best things about working with Scrum is no longer having to sit in meetings that have no point.
Yeah.
Where people are just talking for the sake of talking.
well, one of the talks I did see in Agile 2013.
Nice segue.
Yes, nice segue. But it was about kind of around this, and it was about running retrospectives. And they said not to let people talk about a subject for longer than 8 minutes, because 8 minutes
That's a really interesting, specific time.
And then they said 8 minutes is the maximum of people's attention span.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when we run Scrunch, that's the maximum amount of time we let people talk about the subject. So maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah.
8 minutes seems a little bit short to me if you're talking about an important topic, but that's what he recommended.
It depends on, I guess that sort of suits a large number of people. It's a good number. For me, 4 minutes is plenty.
Yes.
So it depends on who you are.
You are a concise individual.
Recently I've been taking the approach where I run meetings like mini sprints. So I will tell the team what we have to get through, and I give them the time box that we've got. And the point of the time box is to keep them focused on subject, and that they will, these are the things we need to get through. If we don't get through all of these things, then that's that. We haven't failed. We can either, if it's important that we come back and revisit that, sure. But if we've got what we need out of the meeting when the time box is up, let's just call that a day.
I think it's a really great idea to set expectations from the start.
Yeah.
Then everything's clear and everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah. And sometimes having a visible timer in a meeting is a good idea, just so people know that the longer they talk about something or meander, that they're taking up that time. Yeah.
And ask the team how they want you to manage their time box. Do you want me to bang the desk when the time box is up? Do you want me to let you know 2 minutes beforehand?
Like a water pistol?
Do you want me to hold my hand up? Yeah, water pistol. I haven't thought about water pistol.
Another thing I witnessed at Agile 2013, which I hadn't seen before, and all the presenters were doing this when they were speaking to a room full of people, and sometimes you had 100 people in a room, sometimes you had 30 people in a room, but when everybody started to talk and they wanted to get everybody's attention, they just hold their hand up and then one person will notice that they have their hand up and they put their hand up and they'd stop talking, and then suddenly the whole room sees that and puts their hand up, and the conversation just shut down.
Is that weird with the whole room holding their hands up like some kind of
It's
activity?
well, a little bit, you know.
Sort of agile club. It's a good idea though. I mean, it's a really nice sort of quiet way of getting attention, isn't it? In a gradual way without sort of having to clear your throat or bang a glass or something.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
Bang the desk.
bang the desk. Yes.
Right, so speaking of meandering, hope that hope that answered your question, Tony, in some way. If not, please let us know through the chat.
Yeah. So Nashville, what was the highlight?
Ooh, the highlight of Nashville.
Of the conference.
Okay. I was going to say the fried chicken, but that's not what you're talking about.
Right.
Well, I went to I think 14 or 15 sessions over there, and they're about a variety of subjects. And I think for me, some of the highlights, I went to quite a few sessions about coaching teams and talking to teams, and for me that was very, very interesting, because obviously we work, largely with teams here, and just talking about the different personality types that you find within teams, and how to solve conflict. So that was some of the most interesting stuff that I got from it. But I have got some. The first talk actually was a bit of a highlight. The first talk was this guy whose name was Abi Namani, and he was working with government in the States. And obviously we work with government a lot, being from Wellington. That's what you do. And it was quite an inspirational opening keynote talk, because he's actually managing to work with government, and in this case it was websites, in a lean and agile way. And they got their inspiration from the British government website, which has been redone. I'm not sure how long that's been around.
We talked about that on the board a couple of sessions ago, actually.
Yeah.
Is that forum for government employees to talk about agile?
I believe so. I think that's what.
No, this is just for the public. This is the main government. So it's gov.uk. It's the main website.
Oh, it's the main website for government to engage with public.
Yeah, and they've really simplified it. And rather than have space for every single department, or to have navigation based around different departments, because that doesn't mean a lot to the public. It only means to the people who work within those departments. They actually simplified it greatly and made the content about what the customer might expect. And that was a bit of inspiration for this guy and how he works with government in the US. And if you want to check out answers.honolulu.gov, or even answers.oaklandnet.com.
And we'll put that up afterwards on that.
Yeah, we put these links up afterwards.
Just a word from Tony regarding that earlier question. He was saying that the 2013 Scrum Guide removed the stipulation that meetings are proportionally less for sprints less than 1 month. It says, instead now it says that they're generally shorter than the max time box.
Yeah.
I mean, personally for me, I think it's one of the things you can sit down and discuss in the team charter, like, our sprints are 2 weeks. We might suggest that the meetings are this length. Is it right with that?
And I think the whole point is keeping the meeting to a point where it's productive, and then recognising it's no longer productive and closing it.
Sorry. Carry on.
That's all right. So Honolulu, we saw this guy showed the original Honolulu website, which is just a shambles, and a large part of the real estate on the homepage was taken up with an animated GIF that didn't do anything. It just showed different images of Honolulu. It was completely pointless, and the content didn't really make any sense to anybody who didn't work in government. So they rejigged it. They got the public to come in, and the public actually wrote sections of the content. So the public would say, "Hey, I want to find a driver's license. So this is what I'd like to find out."
So they basically crowdsourced their content.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what they did. And now, if you have a look at that website, Honolulu Answers, it's just a search box in the middle of the page, and you just go in and you type in what you want, and it brings you to a page giving you exactly the information you want. You don't have to sift through pages or try to guess.
Absolute sense, because how many times do you go to these kind of sites and immediately go to top right search box and ignore everything on the homepage?
Well, that's right. And people come to these sites. What are they looking for? They're looking for answers to these questions, and they don't care about a lot of new policies that are coming out.
They don't care about stuff that's been pushed at them, do they?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's it's really making the best of the budget for that project.
Yeah.
If giving a comprehensive search that works really well is what people want, then invest your money in that. Don't worry about the surrounds of that. A box on a white page is probably sufficient.
And it must be a hard sell. It must be a hard sell going into a government department and say this is what the public want, and this is what we can give them.
But of course, they had the backup of knowing what the public wanted by asking.
Well, exactly.
They were just telling the government this is what we think the public want.
And constantly talking to the public, and like you say, they were crowdsourcing that content as well. So the content was of huge value to the public.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really encouraging as well.
Yeah. So that was a really good way to start off the whole conference. And that was the keynote, so everybody was there. There's 1,700 people at the conference.
Interestingly enough, I noticed some of these keynotes have been put up online already. So
That's right. If you go to the
Agile Conference website, you're in.
We'll post that link afterwards as
Yeah.
well. Then.
yeah. I think all the keynotes are up there in video format already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they're pretty good like that.
Yeah, although you've ruined that one for me because you just told me the ending, but
Well, there's obviously a lot more detail in there, and this guy's a really good presenter as well. He's
just give them
very
a bit of
enthusiastic.
summary, so-
That's fine. Yeah.
So what else, Gav? What else?
So what else? Well, let's have a look. One thing that I did enjoy actually, because we do a lot of retrospectives here and a lot of remote retrospectives, and I went to a session which is more of a workshop, and they put on a fake live retrospective, and I showed you how they handle that with remote people.
Right.
And it was interesting because it's very much about tools at the end of the day. He used Adobe Connect. He also worked for Adobe, so I don't think that's...
was it a sales?
He said that he kept stressing that it wasn't, but
However,
there might be other tools out there, but Adobe Connect allows you to have everybody on video, and
that's what he uses.
yeah, exactly, and allows you to use sticky notes and dot vote and
Right.
you know, group ideas together.
Is that virtual sticky notes with that? What
Yeah,
else?
yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
virtual
Electronic
dots.
sticky notes, and that was quite good. And he had a few tips, which is good. So rather than have, for example, everybody's voice on, everybody talking, which can let things get a little bit chaotic. Say if you have like 9 people on a team and they're all talking at the same time, conversation is going to get lost. So only the facilitator can be heard, and everybody else just communicates through the chat functionality,
Right.
which really makes things easy to see, and also, you know, keeps a record of everything that everyone
Yeah,
said.
that's right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's something we'd definitely like to try here for, you know, when we have
Yeah.
a team that's not in the office.
And if people had questions, or if there's a bit of a sticking point with Adobe Connect, again, you can create polls on the fly really, really quickly. So you can say, okay, everybody, this conversation is getting a bit muddled. We have to make a decision on this, so that you just make a poll, everybody votes, and then you take that and move forward.
So it's a really quick way of, I mean, we use Festive 5 a lot.
Yeah.
But obviously online a poll is going to work a lot quicker than
Well,
you
yeah,
to
yeah.
sort of look around what everyone's doing.
That's right.
Cool.
And he's also the guy who said don't let conversations go on for longer than 8 minutes, because that's the limit of people's attention span. But again, he went through the retrospective. He went through the 5 stages that you see in Esther Darby and Diana Larson's book, and showed how you can actually do that in this tool. I'd be interested to know if there's other tools out there that can use all this functionality, or that has all this functionality. Because one problem I would find in doing remote retrospectives is that if you're using too many tools, people are having to jump in and jump out, and it's just not that effective. But if you can house it all in one tool, it's it's a really great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to do. I find web-based stuff because everybody can access it rather than having to download an application. You know, because some clients can't download and install stuff. But presumably Adobe Connect is online, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it'd be, you know, we're using a new tool at the moment called Sakoko for remote working, and I think you could run a retrospective with Sakoko. Just have the chat windows open.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, it's working quite well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, certainly better than anything else I've seen at the moment. Yeah.
Anyway,
So actually, I skipped by on day one. It was actually before day one. So the conference started on Monday, and on the Sunday we had arrived, and Nathan was due to join in on a session that Lisa Atkins and Michael Spade were running, a coaching session. Yeah. And it was for past alumni of their courses, but they invited me along as well, which I wasn't expecting. I wouldn't have had such a big night out the day before if I knew what was going on. But
TMI.
we went along, and they showed us informal, formal, and paper constellations.
yeah.
For
the exercise we did in the office.
that's right. And I'll just try and describe them briefly. So it's a way of that just would not work.
No.
It's a way of exposing a system being the environment and the people and the structure within that you work within. The informal constellation, you put an object in the middle of the ground and everybody stands around it, and you say a statement. For example, the statement they used for the example on the Sunday was, "I'm here at this conference to learn," and everybody who strongly agreed with that would stand very close to the object in the middle of the room. If if you're sort of there to learn, sort of there to network, you'd stand maybe a little bit further away from the middle object. And if you absolutely weren't there to learn at all, you're solely there to network, you'd be standing pretty much against the wall. So everybody ends up dotted around the room, forming a constellation. And it's just a really good way, good and quick way to get a feeling for, or get some sort of visibility of how people feel about different topics.
Gauge the mood really quickly.
Gauge the mood, and then you'll ask the people who are very near the central object, oh, why are you standing there? And then they'll say their piece, and ask somebody in the middle why they're standing there, and then ask somebody against the wall why they're standing there. So it gives you a really good overview of what's happening, and it's a non-combative sort of way of doing that as well.
Cool.
Then things got a little bit crazier. They went into formal constellations, where you you get one person who's the facilitator or the coach, I suppose, and well, not even just a facilitator, and they will pick people from a team, and it could even be outside people, and they get them to stand in rooms. I might pick Paul, for example, and say, okay, Paul, you're Lisa, and you are the Scrum Master on this project. I want you to stand here, and Kirstin, you are the product owner, and I want you to stand in this part of the room, but I know that you and the Scrum Master are slightly at odds, so I want you to face a little bit away from the product owner because there's some communication problems there. And then you go over, and Ben, you're team member A, and you get them to stand there. So you get the facilitator to get all these people standing in the room and position them in such a way that it makes them feel right, it makes them feel is a good reflection of whatever situation they're in at the time. And then you ask everybody how they feel. And the weird thing for me, it all seemed a little bit touchy-feely at the start, but they started asking people who are actually positioned how they felt. And people say, oh, I feel very tense about this situation. And another person would say, oh, I don't want to look Lisa in the eyes. I feel like there's a bit of an issue between us. So people are feeling very real emotions in this situation.
Confronting.
Yeah, quite confronting. And then you try to ask these people questions and maybe move their position and move them until they're in a situation that everybody feels comfortable with and nobody feels tense about and nobody feels worried about. And it gives the facilitator a lot of insight into their project and how they might actually approach some problems and situations. And I was just witnessing this. I was actually part of it, and I was quite bowled over by the amount of emotions that this brought to the fore, and how much insight it gave to the facilitator about their own situation.
It's a really neat tool. We've used something similar before in coaching techniques for when you're talking to an individual. Because you can just use those like little figures that Nathan has, and or some Lego people, and you can get the person you're talking or coaching about the situation they're dealing with, and just get them to lay out the figures on the table in the way that they see the problem and how it's occurring, and and just talk about the dynamics of the relationships and so on, and then you can ask them to configure it in a different way and how they think it would work. And
so how a future state might be when issues have been resolved.
And that's what they went on to do as well, and they call that the paper constellation, just because it's not with people, but you're still using objects. One recommendation I would say, get objects that are easy to stand up, because when they did it, a lot of time was spent with them trying to stand these little figures on the carpet.
I think our ones are quite sturdy, actually.
That's right. The same sort of idea as the formal constellation, but just you obviously don't have to have a group of people involved. And I suppose these are all coaching techniques, so only relevant really to coaches. And we were told that as coaches we could use the informal and the paper constellations, that's no problem, but the formal constellation just gets so personal, and there's a lot of personal space involved, and it brings a lot of emotions to the fore. So not to try that unless you're very, very experienced. Yeah, maybe if you've done your 10,000 hours of time or something. Yeah.
I have a question leading on from this. I know Nathan mentioned when he came back that he'd been to a workshop or something around conflict resolution. Did you go to that also? No, I didn't go to that one. It's a shame. That was really interesting because obviously, we come up with conflict at some point. And I think he had some interesting ideas. For example, agreeing on one action we could take to resolve conflict.
Prior to getting into conflict. Prior to getting into conflict, you ask the team how they would like to resolve conflict.
That's right, exactly.
If it comes up in the future.
So how it would come up in the future. So some of the ideas that, examples that he'd had were not triangulating, which is not having two people sort of banding
Ganging
together,
out, yep.
going off another. Agreeing to let something go after 24 hours if it hasn't been resolved.
So, yep.
And what was
That's a great one. Just letting dropping something if it's not resolved.
Yeah, because it's really not productive if you spend too long.
No.
Going back and forth on it, right?
Festering. Yes.
Can you remember any of the other ones?
No, I can't, unfortunately. I think, but the whole point was that you rather than ignoring conflict, you brought the conflict out and you dealt with it and worked out because behind, usually behind someone's kind of a rational kind of response to something, there's a request for something. There's a genuine request there, and what you have to do is work out what that request is. So, two people in conflict, usually, you can resolve it by a number of ways, I think.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to hear more about that from Nathan. I think it's a great idea for the team to discuss a head conflict, as you say.
Oh,
and how to deal with it.
well, one funny thing we went to, and this ties into that a little bit. Bruno Spill, this guy from Belgium, who we got to know over there, and he did a couple of talks we went to. And the first one he did was tools from psychology for coaches, trainers, and team members. And he this is all around neuro-linguistic programming, NLP.
Okay,
Yeah, and he was talking about the different sort of personality types you might find in a team, and he had 3 basic personality types. There's the rescuer, the victim, and the persecutor. So the victim is the sort of person who's always looking for help and saying, "Oh, I can't do this,"
But obviously, anyone could be any one of those 3 types in any given meeting.
Well, that's
always
right.
Be the same role.
And then there's the rescuer, who's the person who you might have somebody on the team who's always saying, "Oh, don't worry, I can look after that." And people come to depend on that rescuer, and if that rescuer is not there, the team can fall apart a little bit. So you don't really want anybody to be a rescuer, but they're always coming to. They're always there to help out people.
Position, because you're always taking on too much.
And then there's the persecutor, the person who's just can be quite strict or quite, I suppose, a little bit command and control, a little bit aggressive in their demeanor and in their interactions with the team. And one interesting thing was they asked everybody to put their hand up if they thought they could be a victim sometimes, and everybody, was putting their hand up.
Did they?
Yeah. And then he said, very few people put their hand up for the victim.
Right.
And then he asked everybody to put their hand up if they feel they're a rescuer a lot of the time. That's when everybody put their hand up.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really funny.
And then he said, and put your hand up if you feel sometimes you can be a persecutor. And I put my hand up and looked over. None of the rest of the room had their hand up. I was there, "Oh crap," and I turned around and one other person had their hand up.
it?
Nathan.
Yeah. And to be honest, I would have put my hand up for that and the rescuer as well. We all take these kind of roles.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
But it's it's great that you guys are a little more self-aware and willing to be honest with yourselves.
Yes, yeah.
Because no one wants to be a persecutor, but
you don't want to be, but
it's a reality.
Everyone takes one role at one time in meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
Any given situation's different.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did a bit of role playing in this guy's sessions. We also went to a second session of his where he talked about 3 different types of managerial styles. There's the blame culture, where if somebody comes to you and says, "I can't do such and such," they'll say, "Well, you just have to. It's your fault. Everything rests on your head," and it's not very helpful. Then there's the directive management, where they tell their staff exactly what to do, and if somebody comes to them with a problem, they will solve that problem for them. Yeah, and then there's the personal consideration, where if somebody comes to them for a problem, they help them to come to their own solution, come to their own answer.
Which is something that we work on here.
Well, yeah, that's what we try to do, and it's the ideal way, because that's what you really want from your team.
Well, it's really enabling people, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, being the director type of manager, it would make that person very busy all the time, thinking that they have all the answers, and the more they do that, the more people will look to them.
Yeah.
It would be a tough job. Obviously, if you can enable your team to find their own solution, then everyone's sharing the load.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
We had to do a lot of role playing around that, which is quite good fun, because you had to, be a blame culture person, and they had to be a directive management person. And the blame culture was quite good fun, because you just got to be really, really aggressive with a stranger for about 10 minutes or so, which is always fun. Yeah.
I like to call that blame throwing.
Oh, yes.
Manager comes in, it's a blame thrower out.
Like
everyone gets a bit,
Yeah. So obviously a lot of the sessions I went to were around coaching, because that's something that I'm very interested in at the moment. And I went to a talk by Jeff Watts, who's written a book called Scrum Mastery, which I've heard a lot of good things about at the moment. And I'd like to read that, but and I'm going to be meeting him myself soon. He did a very interesting talk as well about coaching. And again, it was about personality types. And he talked about the 4 things. He based his talk largely around a study that was done in England on children in the 50s, and they followed them, as they grew from babies to.
7 Up, that show?
It wasn't 7 Up, but it was similar. It's a similar sort of thing. And he talked about the 4 things that a child needs to be, a fully rounded adult according to this study. And the 4 things. The first one was security and safety. And this security and safety.
Safety, yeah.
How do you say it?
Safety.
Okay. And second was responsibility. Everybody, likes to shoulder responsibility and actually needs it to become a proper human being. Not a proper human being, but and the third one was praise and recognition. Everybody needs, when they do something right and they do something successful, they need a little bit of praise, and even if it's just praising their effort rather than the actual thing that they achieve.
For achievement.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And the final thing that people need is new experiences. They constantly need this influx of new experiences, and these things are also true with team members, and they're true not only obviously of kids who are growing up, but of pretty much every human being, I think. So these are just things to keep in mind when you're coaching. He also talked about, can you coach somebody who you have no respect for and you don't like?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful of that, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my coach, and he was saying, you can't allow yourself to get into that position where you don't have respect for the person you're talking to or coaching.
But I mean, part of coaching is not judging, right?
That's
so
right.
Hopefully you wouldn't become.
That's right.
In a position where you weren't respecting someone because you haven't judged them,
Yeah,
their experiences or what they're talking about.
Yeah.
What does this guy Jeff say?
He said it's difficult. It can be difficult sometimes, but you still should be able to get through that. But he's a very, very experienced coach from what I can tell, and even he does find it tricky to coach somebody who he hasn't got any time for, basically.
Surely, and if it had got to that stage, you would probably say, I don't think that we're great for each other.
Yeah, I don't think it's working out.
Look for someone else.
Yeah.
Or help them look for someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
But that was a great talk, and I'm going to be, like I said, meeting him and talking to him a little bit more, which will be interesting, and I expect to learn a lot from that guy. Yes, he's going to be coaching me, and I'm really looking forward to it because I've never done that before, and I'm not sure exactly what to expect. And obviously from his talk and from meeting him, I think he's going to be excellent, and I think I'm going to learn a lot from. It's going to be quite exciting. I also want to get my hands on that book because people have been discussing.
Buy a physical copy so we can pass it around to.
Yeah. It's called Scrum Mastery: From Good to Great Servant Leadership.
Yeah, we'll put the link up as well.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that actually Paul and I have both had coaches for some time now. Paul for about a year, is it?
Yep.
And I've had a coach for a couple of months now, and I think we're both really benefiting from that.
Every coach should have a coach, I think.
Yeah,
is the simple answer.
Well, when does it stop?
It doesn't stop.
Not just coaches, but also when you're in a management position as well, it's really useful to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
My coach has a coach.
Really.
It doesn't stop. Every coach should have a coach.
Just sort of an internal coach them.
Because the whole point is, like, most of the coaches that you talk to are life coaches as well as business coaches.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is that you can talk to them about either, and I think it's when you're dealing with a team and you're talking, you're dealing with people every day, and it's really good to have that life coach aspect, so you can discuss the human dynamics that you're encountering.
I'm really interested to hear your feedback once you've had a few sessions and see what you think.
I think coaching people is a real skill, and because it's sort of expected of a Scrum Master at some point down the road, and if you're a great Scrum Master and you run great retrospectives and all the rest of that, whatever that involves, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great coach. I think it's a linked skill set, but it's still a different skill set. So
I think part of it is that you need to learn how to do it. Just like managers aren't born, neither coaches are made. And one of the ways of doing that is having your own coach, so that that person is modelling the behaviour to you. Much the way that Scrum Masters model behaviour for teams and other Scrum Masters. And things like that.
And my coach said at the beginning of our conversations, that every conversation goes through an arc, and once you start to once the arc starts to decline, then that's time to find another coach or time to move on. But everybody's you're gonna find a coach. You're gonna work with them for a while. You're gonna find another coach. You're gonna move on and
How
and
do
so
you
on.
think you can identify when that arc is run downward?
I think I'm still getting heaps of benefit from my coach at the moment. I think it's.
He's from Ireland, isn't he?
He is from Ireland.
Obviously very intelligent.
That's right. And and I think so if you don't get benefit from the conversation, then you obviously know. You obviously know when you're.
So it's been over a year, hasn't it? So that's
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
And one other session, the only other one I want to talk about quickly was Sketch You Can, demystifying.
Sketch You Can?
Yeah, Sketch You Can, that's what it was called. Sketch You Can, demystifying a powerful collaboration technique with Jeremy Kriegel. I've forgotten a lot of these people's names because there's so many of them. But he was just talking about how you can sketch down ideas during meetings and get across concepts quickly through sketching. It doesn't have to be fantastic sketching. It doesn't have to be high art or anything.
Just as something for yourself or to show other people?
This is for example, say you're talking about a website and people saying, oh yeah, I'd like to have an image in the top right. And it's just really quick ways and tips to sketch that really, really quickly in such a way that you can then bring that to a team and get across your idea using that sketch and obviously talking around it as well. The sketch on its own doesn't really mean anything, but the sketch with your conversation means a lot and really sheds light on ideas for people.
Which segues to our last point, which is that we've got our Think Visual workshop coming up next Thursday with Lynn Kazali coming over from Australia. We do still have 3 places left, so if anyone in Wellington or further afield in New Zealand wants to sign up, just get in touch. It's on our Eventbrite page, but you can also contact us at info@boost.co.nz.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited about this because
I'm really looking forward to it too.
I'm quite a visual person. I even though I was a developer and I use a lot of words and so on and language, I do. I have a huge word thing.
Nice choice of words.
But I do. When I see a picture, it really helps me understand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm really excited about being able to draw. The whole point of Lynn's workshop is to learn to give you a palette of icons and so on that you can draw really quickly during meetings, so that when you're facilitating a meeting, you can also represent it visually for the people in the room, the 35% of the people that think visually.
No, I'm excited as well because a lot of my pictures just look like lines and squiggles and circles, which means nothing to anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to something that's actually useful that other people can understand what I'm talking about.
And we've done Scrum in 10 minutes for people, and I remember I did it with you bbefore, and I looked at the board afterwards. I was there. That's a shambles. Yeah. Actually, just before we go, can I just say one last thing? Because there's other stuff that I went to in this at this conference that I'd like to talk about as well. There's other sessions I'd like to talk about, so we'll be doing blog posts. I was thinking of maybe doing a blog post for each day of the conference. So I'll be putting them up. I might put the first one up today, actually.
So that'll be going on Boost Agile, but we'll link to it from the Boost blog and tweet it and Facebook it. All sorts of things.
So I'll be going through everything in greater detail than I did here today.
Great, thanks for that. That's really interesting. I'd like to hear more about some of those sessions as well.
Cool.
I think that's it for this week, so we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.